Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the podcast where we watch, review, and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. I'm Patrick, and I'm here as always with my co-hosts, Allison with an I.
Hey, y'all.
And Allison with a Y.
Hello, hello.
And we are here today to watch my pick for this week, which is Ma. Ma follows a group of 5 high schoolers who befriend a woman named Sue Ann, played by Octavia Spencer, while trying to get an adult to buy alcohol for them. The high schoolers include Maggie, who's a new girl in town who is moving back to where her mom went to high school, and her love interest, Andy. Sue Ann seems to be cool, if slightly kooky, and she starts regularly inviting them to drink in the basement at her house. She says she just wants them to party safely so long as they don't take the Lord's name in vain or go upstairs in her house. The kids begin to refer to Sue Ann as Ma, but she develops a mysterious, vengeful obsession with them. As Ma becomes increasingly volatile, the teens start to realize she has nefarious plans for them. I don't know about y'all, but in the months leading up to this movie's release a few years ago, I felt like I saw this fucking trailer non-stop, and I was fascinated by the premise of this movie. Did you guys have that experience too?
Yeah, I think so. I was like, this seems like a unique film. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a lot of promo for this. It was everywhere.
Yeah, and I picked this because I remembered being fascinated by the trailers. It just seemed like this trashy premise with this stunt casting, of course, of Octavia Spencer as seemingly an out-and-out villain. And then I remembered finally seeing it when it did come out and being a little underwhelmed. But just the meme of Ma, like I feel like I talked about Ma constantly with people leading up to its release. And so when I saw it was on Netflix, I was like, okay, we gotta watch Ma. Had either of you seen it already before we watched it for this episode?
Yes.
You had. Okay.
I had seen it once before, and I am so glad that I watched it again.
What was your first impression?
Kind of the same. Like I was kind of, when movies get that much hype, it's like they build themselves up too much, right? I don't know what I expected would be different about this movie, that they were like groundbreaking and amazing and like this big blockbuster or whatever horror, but they did, I was like, okay, that was fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm glad I watched it again, and I'm glad I watched it with like a more interpretive eye, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this, which we're about to unpack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had you seen it prior to this?
I had not seen it prior to this, so it was a lot to take in.
I can't wait to hear what you think.
We've got some incredible talent involved with this movie. Even just starting with the director, I mean, Taylor is bizarrely best known for The Help, Oscar Best Picture nominee.
That's
topic of a lot of discussion from, several years ago or a decade ago, I guess, at this point. And I think, if I remember correctly, Octavia was in that too, right? Yeah.
She was. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I assume that's kind of how they connected.
She baked a pie with shit in it. She had a great character in The Help. I love that movie. Why? I feel like you would love it.
I probably would.
It's really like, I have a hard time with like any movies that depict slavery or like Jim Crow. Like I have so much fucking white guilt that I don't know where to put.
Fair.
But that movie, I will say, like, it is so heart-wrenching, but it's also heartwarming. Mm-hmm. And it's so well written, and like some of the most beautiful powerhouse Black female actresses that could have been cast were cast and nailed it was so good.
Amazing.
And I didn't know the same guy directed Ma until after I watched Ma. I looked it up and thought, what else has he done? And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. It's such a weird career trajectory, I guess, to go from this, highly acclaimed historical social Oscar-nominated drama to this. I mean, it's trash, you know, and I don't necessarily say that about Ma in a pejorative sense, but it's trash. It's lurid. It's paperback novel kind of material.
Right. It's there for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I like that.
Yeah. You can feel Taylor, the director, and certainly Octavia just relishing this opportunity.
Right.
I feel like Octavia is having the time of her fucking life in this.
Oh, she seems to be having a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that she really gets to show off more of her comedic chops. Because let's be real, yes, this is like a horror and like really fucked up shit happens, but it's also really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something like outrageous about it that makes it funny.
And I think it's funny because of her and her performance, very specifically. The deliveries that she gives really show some like solid comedic chops.
Yeah, it's funny in how outrageous this character is, because, you know, she'll be doing the like cool like buddy I'm your like, you know, cool auntie who wants you to drink in the basement, and then turn on a dime to just that like glower as soon as she has to, you know, as soon as she stops putting on this face for them, you know.
It's like uncomfortable laughter.
Yes.
Like uncomfortable funny, which is what she was going for, I think. And that's even a level beyond having comedic chops.
Yeah.
Is like having enough comedic chops to know how to make it uncomfortable.
Yes, yes. And she like plays Ma as if Ma takes herself very seriously and believes she is completely in the right with everything that she does. She's justified it. And there's like a sincerity to herself, towards herself in the performance.
She could do no wrong in like she's such an amazing actress.
Yeah.
She is.
I mean, she's one of the I'm so glad I'm alive at the same time as her kind of people. I agree, this was a real big, I guess, deviation for her in terms of roles, but then I'm thinking about the role she played in The Help, and she was a little deviant in that. So she does play a naughty character like well.
Yeah, like she seems to have kind of motherly energy, but then there's a poison pill kind of dark side to it.
Yeah.
She's like a tough mom.
Yeah.
Tough mother. Tough love.
Tough mother, yeah, that's for sure. But I mean, in this, it's interesting because, and we're not going to talk about the exact motivations here because it's spoiler room material. We don't want to spoil the movie for anybody. But her reason for doing this is incredibly dark and fucked up when it's finally explained what happened to her and what she's actually trying to do here.
Yeah.
And that backstory is one of my biggest problems with this because it feels it's related to something in her past, and it's incredibly traumatic and feels incredibly real. And it just felt so out of place to me in this movie that is otherwise so ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, one of my struggles with this film was the juxtaposition of this a little bit shticky kind of horror film with something happening to her in her past is genuinely fucked up, and like the tones of those two things didn't match for me and made me uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable in a way where I was like, yeah, that's like a good uncomfortable. That's like a I don't know what you were trying to do with this uncomfortable.
Yeah, the motivation is far too serious for the absolutely silly shit that she ends up doing. And I feel like I would enjoy this so much more on two different levels if you didn't have this very traumatic, very serious backstory, and two, if the silly stuff went harder, because she doesn't even really go that hard until the end of the movie. And the reason you go to see this, it's like I'm reviewing this already, but the reason you go to see this is it's like, okay, Octavia Spencer is evil and trying to fuck with teens in some weird way. So, you know, the question is like, why and what's she going to do? You know, when you see that trailer for the 9,000th time in 2019 or whatever it was that this came out, it's like, okay, where the hell is this going to go? And the answers are weirdly overwhelming in terms of the motivation, and then underwhelming in terms of what she actually does until literally the last 10 minutes of the movie when it cranks everything up to like 11,000.
It does.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it does.
That's just me though. Like how did you guys react to both the motive and this, I guess, rampage or this plot that she goes about enacting?
I don't know how else you would have. I don't mean that there weren't other ways that you could have given her motive, but it made sense that that's where they went with it, because what else would it be, right? And like, we're dancing around some spoilers here, so I can't wait to talk more in depth about this when we're in the spoiler room. But I'm interested to see, like, Patrick who writes the movie, right? Like, what would the motivation be then if not what it was? Like, how many ways could they have gone with this?
Honestly, I feel like something silly, because we talked about how she has comedic chops. This is a funny movie. And I'm like, if you're going to make Octavia Spencer as like a killer, psycho, middle-aged, lonely lady, like just go goofy with it. Make her motivation silly. It was such a weird juxtaposition of, again, the silly and the serious to me, that just gears grinding against each other in opposite directions, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I guess I didn't totally feel that way. And again, I can't wait to talk more about it in the spoiler room. But, well, I had already seen it. So I had a vague memory of the why that she was doing what she was doing. But when I was reminded of it, it didn't strike me as like, oh, that's too much. That's weird. Like, you're trying to combine really strong themes, societal themes, with like silly, goofy, weird middle-aged woman having a midlife crisis or whatever. I didn't totally feel that way. I don't know if I agree, but I can't tell you why yet, because we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But I will say, wait, can we go back to the cast for a minute?
I was going to say, we need to go over this cast, because
It's stacked.
there's very notable people in this.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first time I saw this movie, and then I had this thought, right? And it was probably in like 2020. And then I rewatched it 5 years later, and I had this same thought, but amplified by about 1 million, where I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so I'm a single mom to a high school daughter. I was I am Juliette Lewis's character, who I love so much, and she was such a good mom in this movie.
She really was, which is kind of against Juliette Lewis's type.
Exactly what I was thinking. I love when they give her, like, she's not a total piece of trash.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, she was the adult in the room.
Yeah.
Which you never see.
I actually really, really liked her and her character.
And then the second thought that I had, which makes me so fucking uncomfortable, is like, I don't ever want to be Ma.
Well, yeah, I would hope not.
And hear me out. I am like the youngest parent of all of my daughter's friends.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, they're going to be, they're going into 11th grade next year. I know they experiment with things already. They're very honest with me about it. Like, I will not be having a rager in my basement. It made me self-reflect in a way that I was very uncomfortable.
Oh my God. Yeah, I could see being in that position, because you're like the younger cool mom.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh no, I can't become that.
Yeah, when you said that at first, I thought you were kind of talking about more of like the sociopathic tendencies of Ma. And I was like, I would hope you're not going to do what Ma does in this movie. I get you though.
No.
Yeah.
God willing, no. I'm keeping a lid on it.
Yeah.
Every day, though, comes off a little bit in this world we live in.
There's some other interesting actors in this, too. What's his name?
Luke Evans?
Yes, Luke Evans. I was trying to remember his last name. I was like, no, it's not fucking Luke Wilson.
No.
Which, would be interesting. But I love him, actually.
I really like him, too, honestly.
He is the reason I Googled who the cast was, because I'm like, he's hot.
He's very hot.
He was Gaston in the live action Beauty and the Beast, right? Yeah.
And he was also in The Hobbit. I think he shows up in the second Hobbit as, I forget his name, but whatever. He was hot then too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen either of those things, so hence why I Googled and was like, who is that guy?
And then like several years back, he came out as gay, and like even though it's not like I stood a chance, I was like, damn it. Lost another good one.
I know, all of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Allison Janney.
Yes.
Love her.
Love.
She was such a bitch.
She's good at that, though.
Yeah, she's just like, she's Ma's like domineering boss at the veterinary clinic who is just always, I mean, to be fair, Ma is a fucking terrible employee, but
Oh, yeah.
Allison Janney is always just like, Sue Ann, what the fuck are you doing? Like staring off into space. Get this dog shaved. And, you know, I mean, it's perfect. Allison Janney's good at that.
Oh, yeah.
She is. She just gives her zero breathing room.
Yeah.
Like, which I get, like you said, but I would also be like, fuck you. Give me a minute.
Yes.
And then, of course, Missy Pyle, who is just playing her
yeah.
exact type, which is a pretty bitch.
Named Mercedes.
Right. And we should explain kind of, so Luke Evans is, we mentioned Andy in the synopsis, and that's our main character, Maggie's love interest. Mm-hmm. Luke Evans plays Andy's dad, and then Missy Pyle is Luke Evans's girlfriend.
Yeah.
New girl.
New
girlfriend.
girlfriend.
Not
yeah.
Andy's mom.
Correct. Yeah.
And Mercedes is clearly like kind of the village bicycle. She's a lush. I feel bad
The
saying
village
that.
bicycle.
She's a lush. Like, she's like every high school kid's worst nightmare for like a new step parent.
Yeah.
You're like, oh God, not her.
Yeah.
Wait, is the village bicycle like referring to like everyone gets a ride?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding correctly there.
I don't even know where that came from.
But yeah, Missy Pyle is a bimbo. We'll put it that way. She also stars in what I would consider the most memorable scene in the movie, which is big spoiler room territory, but it's so fucking funny. And I'm looking forward to talking about it in a minute because it's one of the most shocking moments in the whole thing.
Yeah, I had to rewind and rewatch it to be like, did I just see that?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's over in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
We'll get there though.
I don't know if I know what you guys are talking about, and I cannot wait to be reminded.
We keep talking about spoilers, and obviously there's a lot as far as Ma's fucked up activities that we can't discuss quite yet, but I do kind of want to dig in a little on the early signs of Ma being fucked up in the movie, because of course, you know, she seems just chill at first, you know, just like, okay, I'll buy some booze for you, whatever. But then it becomes apparent that she has some other plan and she's fucking with them. And one of the first signs of this is her pulling out a gun and making one of the kids strip at gunpoint in her basement. And then she just
strip completely naked, like completely
in front of all the
naked.
other kids. Yeah.
And then like she finally gets him down to nothing. I mean, he takes off his underwear and everything, and then it's just like kind of like psych. And he's like, "Oh, you really got me, Ma." And I don't know, it landed so weirdly for me. It's like, honestly, how does this movie continue from this point? Like, these kids should have been like, fuck this. This woman just made our friend strip at gunpoint. We are never going near her again. You know, we're narking her out. Like, this is over.
But to be fair, I do think that kids were uncomfortable, right?
Yeah,
they were. Yeah.
They were uncomfortable, but I think it was probably like the psychology of their, 17, 18-year-old brains was like, this is fucked up, but we need a place to drink and like, it's fine, right? Like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like they were willing to accept a certain level of fucked up behavior to be able to have their, little hideaway, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, prior to that, they were drinking at like a rock pile.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about in their little immature brains, like they're like, that was weird, but it's fine.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. I'm just like, I feel like any person would draw the line at someone pulling a gun out and making a teenager strip down, but
yeah, I don't know. I feel like teenagers can do some pretty stupid things to party. I was not one of those teenagers, but my older sister certainly was. My younger sister was to a degree. And I'm so glad you both survived some of the stupid shit y'all did.
Yeah, I feel like, to really go anywhere beyond this shock moment of this stripping at gunpoint scene that we just described, I feel like we kind of have to go into the spoiler room, because even that scene, early as it is in the movie, is sort of shocking, and it almost feels spoily to have discussed that pre-spoiler room. So maybe we should review it and then get into the real dirt in the spoiler Ma's basement.
Yeah.
Well, Allison with an I.
We're always in a basement.
It is often the spoiler basement.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's where all the fucked up shit happens.
Yeah.
Not my basement.
Well, Allison with an I, what would you rate Ma? View it, cue it, or screw it?
So I think the first time I watched this movie, had you asked me, it would have been a cue it. Like, easy. Like, don't go out of your way, but it's not a bad movie. But it's a fun, like, horror. I mean, I guess that's such a oxymoron. But, you know, for us horror lovers, there are fun horrors.
Mm-hmm.
After having watched it again, and like I said at the beginning, like with a more discerning and like investigatory eye, I think this is going to be a view it for me.
Oh,
wow.
Interesting.
I think I'm trying to get more lenient with my view its, guys, because I am starting to realize that I'm becoming kind of a snob about horror. Like, nothing is impressing me anymore. What an asshole. But I just do think, like, Octavia Spencer, I think anything she signs on to is going to be good, period. Right? It's probably going to be pretty rare to see her in horror, unless I'm wrong, and she does a ton more, which I hope she does. It's an easy watch. It's not, it's disturbing, but it's not like overly gory. It's not, you know, it's psychologically disturbing more than anything. But I think if this movie came up in conversation for me, I would be like, you guys should totally see that. Yeah, I feel good about that, mostly because I'm trying to be more generous with my view-its, but
That's fair.
I still feel good about it. Yeah. What about you, Patrick?
I'm going to go screw it. There was more to this than I remembered. So, like, my first viewing, my impression was kind of just, that was it? Like, I just thought there was going to be more to chew on, I guess, or just more fucked up shit happening in general. And this time, I there is a lot going on. There's a lot of weird scenes, but it just does not hang together for me. It's just a mess, and it feels so hard for me, at least, to even suss out what the hell they thought they were doing. It's very confusing. There's a lot of strong points. I think Octavia is, of course, tremendous. I think she does the best she could do with this sort of schizophrenic material, but it just doesn't hang together as a coherent movie for me. If I'm going to recommend somebody watch something from it, it's the absolutely insane scene I referenced before with Missy Pyle, that I have seen clipped on Twitter and whatever a zillion times. So yeah, screw it for me. Allison with a Y, what's your rating?
Oh, wow. I'm really fighting my urge to not just try to even this out with a cue it, but I'm going to fight that guilt and just go with my instinct, which is a screw it. It's not a screw it with prejudice. There are a lot of good things about this film, but overall, I don't feel like it was one that need to be made. And I have a lot of reasons for that I don't think I can get into until the spoiler room. Like I said, it's very competently done. There's a lot of really good performances. I really love the cast, but there's a lot in this that really bothers me, but not in like a, I don't know, not in like a, oh, that was like really good horror. And also, I do not have an affinity for youths being targeted in horror films. I really struggle with that. That's just like a line for me, which is why I tend to be bad with like a lot of the classic slasher films, as it often targets young people, and that is it's a pretty hard line for me.
Is it like minors in particular that bothers you, or even like going up into, you know, what, young 20-somethings?
I think minors in particular. Yeah. So if you get high school and younger, it's just like, you know, these people aren't fully responsible for the choices they're making. and I don't think they should pay that kind of price for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle to connect with stories like that. And that's why I think I have to. There's a lot of reasons. Like I said, I'll get into it more with the spoiler room, but it's a screw it for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'll build off what you said slightly and just touch on this for a second, but there are some weird fucking themes in this of some of the darkest subject matter imaginable, and I just don't think it handles them responsibly. It's actually
I agree
kind
with
of
that.
upsetting the way it handles a couple of things. But we'll dig into that in literally a minute probably here. But before we go to the spoiler room, we will encourage you to visit our website, everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com, where you can find a list of every movie, every episode that we have ever done. You can find a link to our merch store there, where you can get t-shirts and other goods and sundries with Amon art on them. And you can find us on all kinds of social media platforms, which our social media manager, Allison with a Y, will tell you about.
You can find us on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube at Amoncast, EHMONCAST. Or you can find us on TikTok at Amon Podcast. Give us a follow on all those platforms. We don't put out all of the content in the world, but we put out some of the content. And we really enjoy it when, our fans and randos interact with us. So come be a fan or a rando and interact with us on there.
And you can also be a fan or a rando on our Discord server. We have a lovely community of folks from all over the world who discuss the movies that we review on the show, as well as all the other horror stuff that they're vibing out on. Vibing out on horror. What a weird fucking thing to say. All right, it's about time for me to go to the spoiler room, I think. So we will see you down there in just a minute to spoil Ma. All right, we are back. We are in the spoiler room, and we are ready to spoil everything about Ma. And, I take notes for these movies, and usually, since we relaunched the show, I've been writing a synopsis to read on the show, and then I'll usually take some cursory notes to remind myself of the spoilers. And it's usually like 2 or 3 lines. Today, my spoilers is like this mega paragraph that's probably 20 lines long in this Google Doc, because there's, my lord, a lot of shocking things happen and a lot of shocking information comes to light. But I think the most important and kind of crucial thing that we've been trying to talk around is Ma's motivation is when she was in high school, Andy's dad, Ben, played by Luke Evans,
and his group of friends,
and
Mercedes,
his group
Erica,
of friends. Yep. Erica is Maggie's mom,
played by Juliette Lewis.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. They were, kind of a cool, popular clique, and they decided to fuck with Ma when she was a teenager by sort of pretending to befriend her and act like they thought she was cool and she could be part of their gang. And this alone is such an odd thing to explain, but this was all, I guess, a long con to set Ma up for a prank where she thought that she was going to have a sexual encounter with Ben.
Ben, yeah.
But they tricked her so that she performed oral sex on someone who turned out to not be him, because it was in the dark. She thought it was him, and it was not.
In a janitor closet at school.
In a janitor closet at school, and then she comes out. Ben is standing there, even though she thought she was just in the closet with him, and everybody's laughing at her. And this is the trauma that drives her, and why she's trying to get back now at Ben through Andy, through his teenage child, and this teenage child's group of friends,
who are all the kids of the adults that she went to high school with that bullied her.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the next generation of these kids.
Right. None of whom are shown to do anything particularly shitty on their own. Like, absolutely, the parents did something absolutely awful to Ma, but for the most part, these kids are decent. They're not like Boy Scouts or whatever, but they're fine.
Right. Like, and Maggie in particular is like a pretty kind an empathetic character, and there's like this black girl at her school who's in a wheelchair, and Maggie treats her with kindness and empathy, not in a way that like she feels bad for her, but in a way that she just like treats her like a peer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Maggie's a sweetheart. She's a nice kid.
Yeah.
They're all nice kids.
Right. I said none of them are Boy Scouts, but Maggie may as well be a Girl Scout. She's
right.
like an angel, more or less.
Yeah.
She doesn't do much of anything bad.
The kids are sort of just an extension of their parents, right? Like, which is total, like, nature nurture kind of thing.
Right.
And Maggie's mom, Erica, played by Juliette Lewis again, was also very sweet, it turns out. Like, she was very level-headed, but they moved back to this town that Erica grew up in because it's implied that Erica's had some kind of failure, divorce, fallout, lost money, whatever, and she's kind of going back to her roots and, like, stripping it all down and simplifying their life. So Erica is inherently kind of an outcast when she comes back, and she's ridiculed too. So she's kind of bullied too by Mercedes. She's bullied because Erica works at a casino, and Mercedes is there rolling the dice at the table, and she belittles Erica for her, oh, you work here. So Maggie and Erica are sort of posited as this, like, they're nice, you know, like they have empathy and kindness, and they're sort of humble. Like, they have more humility than the other people who, like, were raised there and never left.
Yeah.
Right. And Erica expresses intense regret for her sort of tangential involvement in this prank. Fucking assault is what it is.
Yeah,
that was orchestrated against Ma back in the day.
Yeah, Erica expresses her deep regret at the very end after some shit goes down that we'll talk about because we're in the spoiler room now. But no, I agree that these kids were all in all kind.
Yeah.
Andy, you know, Maggie's boyfriend, was also very sweet. And I don't think his dad was a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Ben was a fucking asshole. So that's where I don't totally agree that these kids are an extension of their parents. But Ben, fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Agree. Ben's an asshole. Mercedes is an asshole. But unfortunately, the next generation, their kids and their kids' friends pay for it because Ma can't go to fucking therapy, apparently.
Yeah, and I think it's a weird disproportionate response on Ma's part. But then also just even to go back to the root of these flashbacks that are slowly revealed to show what happened to Ma when she was in high school. It's harrowing. It's genuinely upsetting because it seems like something that really fucked up kids would do to bully, you know, a shy, nerdy kid in real life. And when I'm talking about parts of this that just don't click for me, this movie, again, is funny. We've talked about that. It's outrageous. But then you have this very grounded, crucial flashback to sexual violence that just for me was like, what the fuck? Why are you mixing these things together? I don't even know how to feel while I'm watching this movie now.
Sexual violence that's rooted in racism.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing we haven't talked about yet. Is like Ma was, Sue Ann was one of the only people of color that we saw in any of the flashback scenes.
Yeah.
In what looks to be like a small town with very narrow-minded people.
Yeah.
And here's where I think what ultimately kind of gave me my screw it for the film is talking about this theme of racism without making the villain of the film who experienced the racism more of an empathetic character. Because you have empathy for her past self, but she doesn't really present in a way in the present to give you any empathy for her.
Yeah, because she's just kind of kooky cartoon villain, really, in the present. You know, she's just, again, the premise here is it's Octavia Spencer essentially as a teen slasher, you know?
And they kind of like make her almost this like, I mean, they make her a little bit of like a mammy caricature. This like older woman who's like taking care of children, who's very like motherly and protective, but then they turn that into a villain without giving her the depth that she deserves in the present day.
Well, and the mammy thing works for me because I think that character is intentionally deploying that stereotype to endear these kids to her so that she can do what she wants to do to them. That I guess makes sense.
It just feels irresponsible to me in storytelling.
Oh, it's a wildly irresponsible movie.
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure. I mean, I think it wants to provoke in like any way it can think of to do so, and there's zero sense of responsibility about what it's actually saying, if anything. I should have looked at some interviews because I would be curious to see how Octavia or Tate Taylor, the director, spun this on the press tour as far as like what the meaning of the movie is. Allison with an I, as the person who enjoyed this movie, how did this stuff hit you?
So I think that I have had all the same thoughts that you guys have. And those ran through my head much less so the first time I saw it because I was not watching with as much intention, if at any intention. But this last time I had all those same thoughts. And I think what it came down to for me was I'm going to address a couple things you guys said. So I think that I disagree when you say that they didn't give her character the empathy that it deserves. For me personally, I think that the flashbacks that they did, and there was more than one, right? Like they built up this long con that Sue-Ann was going through in her high school years with these kids over a series of different scenes. And I think I personally felt a ton of empathy for her. A, as someone who experienced bullying in high school. B, as someone who grew up in a small, rural, predominantly white, very racist town in upstate New York that knows a shitload of people that I dealt with in high school that I guarantee are the same way as adults. I also do think it's interesting that because there's so much race and racism in this movie that it feels maybe uncomfortable for us as the viewer to then have a black villain, right? And I think that's part of what you guys were saying. Like, if you're going to make this person who suffered a villain, give us more. I think we're uncomfortable with it because she's black.
Yeah, I think I would let it slide more if she was white. Yeah, I think that's accurate.
I mean, that was done on purpose, and she took the role. So, like, it was a very brave, bold choice that they made, but it didn't bother me. I was able to remove myself from it and look at it as she is a horror movie villain. I understand her backstory. I have the right amount of empathy, and she's also deeply, deeply mentally ill. And I think it was alluded to that in high school, there was something a little bit off about her. She was a little bit slow or had some kind of a disability. So I don't know. That's kind of where, just spitballing based on some of the things you guys said. What are your thoughts?
I hear you with that. And I understand where you're coming from. I'm still not comfortable with villainizing a black woman, bringing in racial themes and then not giving her in the present day the justice that I think she deserves with it. Like, it's just not something I personally am comfortable with, and I don't necessarily think that that's the story that needs to be told.
Sure.
Whether it's realistic or not, you know? It's just like, I don't know if it's a responsible story to tell.
Do I think the kids deserve the brunt of it? Absolutely not. But do I think that I rarely put myself in the villain's shoes of any horror movie and think, would I do what they're doing? Or is that justified? Or is that the right call? Like, of course not. It never is, right? Like, I'm not going to go around killing people.
Right.
So I didn't feel the need to do that just because there were these deeply political, racist tones. I felt like I was able to continue to not have to do that and see the movie for more what it was on its face, I guess.
Fair.
I mean, I think the other thing that bothers me is just the extent of the crime. Like, I don't know, it's just such an extreme thing to have happened to her. And again, just felt so tonally jarring with everything else going on. Like, you could have had them do any number of traumatic bullying incidents that had this long-term effect without this. Like, that's just shocking. It's lurid, and there is no reason for it to have happened other than them stirring the pot. And to me, it's just a pot stirring movie. I don't think it is trying to actually say anything about anything. I think it's trying to shock and full stop. You know, I mean, to dig into the racism themes a little more, there's this super weird moment where one of the kids, Darrell, who is black, says something to Ma about, and it's in the tone is so weird, like this jocular tone. He's like, yeah, you know, like them ships that came over here with our people in the belly, right, Ma? And it's kind of like, he almost like literally like elbows her in the ribs, like yuck, yuck kind of moment. And she just like gives him a death glare. But so weird. So weird. I'm like, why? Why did we do that? Why did we go there? Whose idea was it to write that line and present it in that way? I'm baffled. I'm truly baffled at what the intention was. And I don't think there was an intention other than, again, shock value.
I could argue that there might be, right? Like, I think so much of this movie is a metaphor for generational trauma, right?
Yeah.
Like the sins of our parents get passed down to us, whether real, literal, psychological, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's definitely a tone of generational trauma. And I think the context of that was Ma was persistently trying to get these kids to hang out, and they were creeped out and they had already started to distance themselves. And then she started to show up at their school and like be like, hey guys, it's Friday somewhere. It's 5:00 somewhere. I got all this alcohol. And then they start making excuses in the scene as to why they can't hang out. And Darrell's like, I got to finish a paper on slavery. Right. And he talked about it very comfortably, but it very clearly triggered her. Very clearly. So in my mind, that was a call to like, when she was growing up and going to literally that same school and was literally the black kid as Darrell is now, because there weren't many people of color, and even the generation of Maggie's generation, right? She was obviously heinously bullied, humiliated, and stood out as one of the only people of color in that school and not comfortable with it. So I do think it triggered her in a way that Darrell, now being a generation or two younger, doesn't have that same trigger. Like he's grown up around his peers who are not bullying him.
Right.
They love him. They care about him. So he's not carrying that shame.
Yeah, he grew up in a different time where it was like, it wasn't, I want to say it's not radical to talk about issues of race, but it's less radical.
Right.
Progress has happened, at least to some degree, between when she was a kid and when Darrell's a kid. So I get where you're coming from with
like
that.
She's really just stuck in the past. She's stuck in her trauma in the past. She can't see any sort of evolution happening in front of her eyes.
She's still that like 16-year-old that she was. She never got past that trauma.
Right. And I think Darrell has, right? Because where he just never suffered it to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I do think that's, if I'm making a case for why that line exists, I think that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, and I can sort of see the outlines of the alternate universe in which this is more of a sober-minded movie about racism, generational trauma, but to me at least, it just felt like throwing, here's a little thing about differences in how generations perceive racial violence of the past. Here's a dash of sexual violence, here's a dash. It's just like grab bag, and it just feels so haphazard, and again, I guess just irresponsible to me. I won't belabor the point anymore, but it just, I don't know, it just felt all over the place to me.
Yeah, I feel like I expressed everything I need to about the discomfort on the racial issues for myself personally.
Well, and there's more coming up.
Well,
there's more coming. We haven't even talked about the penultimate. Ma flips her shit.
Good.
Listen, let's just go through the laundry list of some of the fucked up shit that she does. And it can just be a list. If y'all have comments along the way, throw in your comments. But Ma drugs Maggie at one of her parties after she sees Maggie kissing Andy, and Maggie wakes up the next day with unspecified cuts and bruises, and her jewelry missing. Ma's also stealing jewelry throughout this movie, too, which is weird. The teens start to, get hip to what Ma's doing and start to spread the word, like, don't hang out at Ma's. And then Ma claims to have cancer to, garner their sympathy and get them to start coming back again.
That was such a cringy scene. Can we just talk about this scene where she tells him she has cancer for a minute? They're back at the rock pile because she now knows she's lost their trust. She's gone too far. Too much weird shit has happened that they can't explain away for the sake of having a party. And so she gets them to meet her somewhere safe, right? And so they all show up at the rock pile, and she's standing there, and she tells them that she has cancer and it's spreading or whatever. And, she gives them this speech, and she's like, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat this thing. And then she looks at them and she goes, I'm going to beat this, right? And it's just a moment where you're just like, you are the grown up here. What are you doing? But she delivers this great speech.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. None of my feelings about this film are any shade on Octavia Spencer's performance at all.
No, again, I think the material is terrible, even atrocious. I think she does absolute yeoman's work making the best of it. I think she kills. She's awesome.
Literally and figuratively.
It's just the script itself that drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to point out that I physically cringed when she said, I'm gonna beat this, right?
She's
guys?
so
I was
good.
Like, oh God.
She's so good.
All right. Keep the list coming, Patrick.
Yeah, so
boy.
Allison mentioned before this classmate of our young protagonist, a black girl in a wheelchair, which you mentioned that specifically because she's one of not a lot of non-white young people in this movie. And it turns out that's because she's Ma's fucking secret daughter, who Ma like hides in her house for, again, reasons unbeknownst to me, other than just... What else would be weird and shocking to happen in this? She hides her disabled daughter in her house.
Hang on.
Yes.
There's more to that.
No,
So
please.
Ma has Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Right.
Munchausen syndrome by proxy is when you keep a loved one, namely children, sick. You keep them sick because you're giving them the wrong medication. You're mostly that, you're giving them some cocktail that's flying under the radar of doctors, but they are constantly sick. They are chronically ill. Doctors can't figure out why. They run all kinds of tests. And to actually like snuff out someone that's got Munchausen syndrome by proxy is difficult because it's really rare, but it happens. So it's this terrible mental illness that happens where you keep your children sick so that they get attention. They need you, they're tethered to you, and they have no independence. So it comes from like, I don't want my kids to leave me. I need to be needed. I don't want to be alone. So she was doing that to Jeannie, her daughter, the entire time. She had Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Let's bring it back to a true crime corner here. The most famous case probably being the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, who kept Gypsy Rose absolutely disabled with a cocktail of disabilities and illnesses just to keep control over her and for the attention that it gave Dee Dee of being a great mother. And, well, in that real life story, Gypsy kills her mom.
And there's been a couple others. So one of my all-time favorite HBO series that was based on a book is called Sharp Objects with Amy Adams. It is so fucking good. And I'm here to say officially on the podcast, if you have not seen Sharp Objects, put it on your list. It is so good, and it has one of the best soundtracks of any show I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
I want to say Denis Villeneuve directed all of that.
Correct.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I should because I love him and I love Amy Adams, and I've heard it's great. But please continue.
So Ma has Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which was my hunch as soon as we figured out Jeannie was her daughter and Jeannie was in a wheelchair, but then we see Jeannie not in a wheelchair and she's walking. Immediately my brain went there, but only because I'm kind of clued in to stories like this because they're fascinating. But it wasn't for no reason. So continue with the list, but I'm glad we talked about that.
Okay, so that all sure makes sense, and that's a horrifying real life psychological reality, but what does it mean to the movie? I just don't know why that's here. And that would be an interesting movie, even if it's just the movie about Ma and Jeannie and why the hell Ma did this to Jeannie. But again, it's this haphazard, put in a dash of Munchausen by proxy syndrome, and I don't know what purpose it serves, again, other than to have kind of a sick little twist of the knife when you find out what's actually going on with Jeannie. What did that mean to you, I guess, Allison with an I? Or what did that tell you anything about Ma, or what did it add to the movie,
I mean, it
guess?
further confirmed that she was deeply mentally ill and that she was likely I don't think mental illness like that comes out of nowhere. And I think what happened to her in high school didn't help.
Exacerbated
I also
it.
don't think it caused it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she clearly has a deep mental illness as personified by her having Munchausen syndrome by proxy is just a tie back to she's not a sane person.
Mm-hmm.
And something awful happened to her. And she didn't deserve it. And here's her vengeance.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. And most vengeance stories don't make sense.
Right.
Well, she starts getting down to actually killing some people, and now we get to my favorite scene, which is when she just runs over Mercedes. Ma sees Mercedes jogging down the road, and there's like zero thought. There's been no forethought. This is not a premeditated act. She just
Not
happens
at
to
all.
see her out for a jog, and she just puts the pedal to the fucking metal of her old ass van and just pastes Mercedes, and that's it. And this is never spoken of again.
Nope.
Never addressed whatsoever. It is so funny to me, and I love it.
Totally forgot about that until you brought it up.
It's such a deranged moment.
And Mercedes, fuck you, Mercedes. You
Yeah,
fucking
like,
deserved
I
it.
mean, I'm not going to shed a tear over Mercedes. But that was the point where I had to, like, rewind and be like, did I just see what I saw? Because, yeah, there was no ceremony to it.
No. Yeah, none whatsoever. It's all over in like 10 seconds,
Yeah.
basically. It's great. And I mean, if there was more crazy shit that felt low stakes in the way that does, in a weird way. And it feels, and when I say low stakes, because Mercedes is a cartoonishly awful, shitty bimbo.
Hateable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hateable.
And so it's like, fuck yeah, Ma, go run Mercedes over. And so much of the rest of this is just colored by these subtleties of real life awfulness,
Right.
where the lurid stuff just doesn't work for me. I've said that 1,000 times. I should
Mercedes'
stop.
death feels like justice, but then also Ben, which we find out. Well, does she kills her boss first, right?
Yeah, and I forget what that is. She does something really ridiculous to
I don't
Alice and
remember.
Janney, right?
I can't remember how she kills her either.
Don't they
Are we sure
find
she
her
killed
in
her?
like kennels? Isn't she in a kennel or something?
Oh shit! Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
even like see it, but she's just like locked in like a large dog kennel, and she's had like
At the veterinary clinic where they work.
yeah.
And she's been, I think, injected with something.
And
then
there's
Ma locks her in
blood,
a
like
kennel.
it's
Yeah. Which again, that's something where I'm just like, this is lurid and I love it. This character has just been shitty in kind of a comical, over the top way to Ma, and sure, give her a comical over the top death.
Right.
Great.
And then
Yeah.
we get to Ben. And I say, like, these three feel in this world justified, right?
Yeah. Ben fucks with her first because he invites her. He brings his dog to get shots or
Yes.
whatever.
Oh,
he
God,
sees her at the
yeah.
vet clinic and he's like, hey, Sue Ann, like, long time. How have you been?
He basically pulls the same thing on her.
Yeah.
He pulls the same thing on her again. He invites her to dinner. She gets so excited. She goes home. She gets dressed up. She gives Jeannie a dose of whatever she's been dosing her with from the vet clinic. Not fucking cool, like ketamine or something. Shows up at the restaurant. Ben shows up and he instantly is like, I put one of these trackers on your car. What the fuck are you doing with my or on my son's car? What the
right,
fuck are
yeah.
you doing with my kids? Stay the fuck away or I'm going to kill you before I can even call the police. So then she decides, oh, fuck this guy forever, ever, ever. Like he has wronged me and disappointed me way
That's
too many times.
probably her big moment of escalation.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was the tipping point for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does she get him to her house?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. He shows up at her house,
So she injects him,
Straps
him.
into a bed.
Yeah. And then
strips him down all the way.
And then threatens also briefly to cut off his very large plastic penis. It's one of the most obviously plastic penises I've seen in things.
Really?
Yeah. Did you all think that was his real dick?
I don't really remember it.
Oh,
It wasn't
okay.
notable.
Oh, I mean, who knows? Maybe that is his real dick. It just seemed comically. I mean, it's comically large for sure, and comically just. I don't know. It just looked artificial to me. It may be Luke Evans' real dick, but I don't think so.
I think I really wanted it to be his real dick. You know what I mean? We'll just leave it at that.
But yeah, she threatens to cut it off for like a second.
Yeah.
And then she's like, nah, I'm just playing.
Yeah, but
and then she slashes his wrists or his
yeah,
throat.
yeah, and he bleeds out. Like that's
Yeah.
how he
While
dies.
he's-
Is he bleeds out while strapped to her bed?
Yeah. And meanwhile, she's got our central quintet of teens drugged and tied up in the basement.
And she's doing all sorts of fucked up shit to them.
And this is like I referenced the final, like, I think this is literally the last 10 minutes that all of this shit
it's
goes
insane.
down. She like irons one of the kids like bare chest, like she puts a hot iron on his chest.
Yeah, Andy's
Yeah.
chest.
Yeah. And notably, to get back to racial themes, she paints Darrell, the black kid's face, white, like just white house paint.
What the fuck did Darrell do to deserve that?
And she says, there's only room for one of us.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
And then she sews her friend's mouth shut, which
That was
horrifying.
horrifying.
Yeah.
That was one of the most graphic, other than, pasting Missy Pyle. That was like the other like most graphic
Ugh.
thing in this.
Mm-hmm.
And then she strings Maggie up
yeah.
Tries to hang her,
by a collar, by these dog collars that she's got from the vet clinic.
Oh, that's
Ugh.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at that point Maggie's mom shows up.
The cop shows up first and she kills him.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and then Jeannie helps, right? Like Jeannie comes down when the cop shows up.
Yeah.
Jeannie distracts Ma so that the kids can start escaping from this hell in the basement, and a fire breaks out in the process.
And then after the fire breaks out, Erica, Maggie's mom, Juliette Lewis, shows up with...
Her friend from the casino.
Yeah, it's a lot. A lot happens in
Yeah.
like 10, 15 minutes.
Andy tries to distract Ma by telling her that he loves her and kissing her. There's a lot.
There's a lot of fucked up shit.
There's
that
a lot.
happens.
And then Ma goes upstairs and like cuddles up to Ben's dying or dead body.
Dead. He's dead.
And burns up with him in the house.
Presumably. Dies.
Ma too.
Exactly.
Ma too.
Ma too. Electric Boogaloo.
Okay. Oh boy.
There's just so much. Again, lurid is the word that keeps coming to mind for me. There's so much lurid shit that happens, but again, crammed into like these last 10 minutes. It's a weird fucking movie.
Yeah.
At the very least, I'll say that it's a weird fucking movie.
So Patrick, if you could rewrite the why of why Ma did this, I don't want to answer your question for you, but as we were talking through this, I was thinking it would have been a better movie if she just went after the parents. Like revenge on the parents, right?
Yeah.
And not brought the kids into it.
100%.
I'd had a lot more empathy for her if it was just the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Make it Kill Bill, and she's
Yeah.
going after the parents. Like, leave the kids out of it, to be honest.
And like maybe using the kids to lure in the parents, but then not hurting the kids.
Sure.
Fine.
I will say she doesn't kill any of the kids. She does hurt them. And I think that was part of not a redeeming quality for me, but part of what continued to make me not feel so troubled about this was that none of the kids died. They were hurt. They shouldn't have been. But
I
they
thought
weren't
it
killed.
was implied earlier in the film after we started to realize how fucked up Ma was, that one of their friends like disappeared at Ma's because they found her bracelet or something like that later, even though they hadn't heard from her in a while. And then we don't hear anything else after they're like, well, she's gone, but oh my God, we found her bracelet. So Ma did fuck at least one teenager up. I'm pretty sure, even if we didn't see it, it was quite implied.
Fucked them up in the sense of killed them.
Yeah, I think so.
Because, I mean, all these kids in the basement are fucked up.
Oh, yes.
Everybody's
yes.
traumatized for life.
Yeah, no amount of therapy is gonna get rid of that PTSD.
Yeah. But no, I think even taking out the element of like the moral or the emotional response of, well, you shouldn't fuck with these kids who didn't really fundamentally do anything, even taking that out, it's just, to me, it kind of muddles the whole thing and makes it more confusing that she's going after these teens. Like, you rewrote the movie, essentially, Allison with an eye just now, when you said, like, should she go after the adults? But to me, that's like a clearer and more focused and more interesting movie if it's about this, middle-aged woman taking revenge on her high school bullies. That's a more interesting and more like coherent movie to me.
Yeah.
I want to see that version of this, you know?
You know, but what's the difference between these kids and the kids at Camp Crystal Lake? What's the difference? Why are we asking more of this film than we would a movie like that?
I mean, I don't like Friday the 13th, so I'm not going to defend.
I also don't like Friday the 13th.
anyways.
Well, and I was going to say, Allison with a Y, you've already alluded that you are uncomfortable with like that age group being targeted. And immediately I thought of like slasher films from the, 70s, 80s, 90s. But I guess in my mind, I was able to separate like this. I don't need to understand her motivation. I already do feel empathy because there are inherent themes that I empathize with. And she's just a crazy killer.
Well, I mean,
like I can accept that.
I mean, also visualizing the version of this where, so say Ma is essentially Freddy and it's just a slasher where she's literally just going around killing cannon fodder teenagers. That also is a more coherent and more interesting version of this to me. It's clearer and more focused. And in that, I think I would like more than this too. Again, to me, this is just like throwing so many things into the pot, just throwing so much at the wall to see if it sticks. And you could pick either of those lanes, and I think it would work better. Just her just going on a killing spree against teens, or just going on a killing spree against her adult former bullies. Like either version works better than what we got, in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. There were a lot of too many almost elements working at once with sexual abuse, racism, generational trauma, Munchausen syndrome by proxy. They tried to do a lot. But I was genuinely entertained, and I think we have had a generally interesting discussion about it. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It is a thought-provoking movie.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate kind of like the defense of it because I don't know if I necessarily have the correct take. It's just like my visceral response to the film,
Sure.
Yeah, and that's why we do this.
Hell yeah.
Well, what are we going to be watching the next time we do this?
I think we have a Wheel of Death next, don't we, Patrick?
We sure do. We're going to wheel out this big ol' super high-tech, futuristic cyber Wheel of Death and give it a big spin. It's going to randomly pick a Netflix horror movie for us to watch next time. So, let's see what it's got in store for us. We're firing it up, giving it a spin.
Oh boy.
Okay. This feels classic Wheel of Death in the sense that I've never heard of this and I feel like I'm about to mispronounce it. We are going to be watching Kali Kuhi, Kaali space Khuhi. And the Netflix blurb little summary of it says, Shivangi, a 10-year-old girl, must save her family's village in Punjab from the restless ghosts of its horrific past. And Shivangi is a name that has a lot of significance to us on Every Horror Movie on Netflix because Shivangi was one of the protagonists in 1920 London Fear Strikes Again.
Whoa.
So very exciting on that level, at least.
Okay, so another Indian horror film.
Another Indian horror film.
Let's go, LFG.
You ready to dance again, You ready for some
is
dance
it Bollywood?
numbers?
What
don't
do
know.
we have to?
We'll find out.
I didn't love the last Bollywood that we watched, so
it is an Indian film, so we'll see.
TBD.
We'll be watching Kali Kuhi next time on Every Horror Movie on Netflix. Until then, visit the website everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube at AmonCast, EHMONcast. Find us on TikTok at Amon Podcast, EHMON Podcast. And you can join our Discord server, which there is a link to in the show notes. And lastly, follow us on your podcast provider of choice and leave us a review. We love to see the feedback, and it helps people find the show. All right. Our journey to Ma's house is over. We're going back up out of the basement. We're going to go out to a fucking bar and have a drink like adults because we don't have to hang out in Octavia Spencer's basement anymore. Octavia can come hang out with us at the bar, though.
Yeah.
Like that'd be cool. That'd be cool. All right. For Every Horror Movie on Netflix, I'm Patrick.
I'm Allison with a Y.
And I'm Allison with an I.
We'll see you next time.